Hi, thanks for joining me on The Spirit's Voice. I got a little vlog for you here. And so I hope you don't mind a vlog, and I need a drink of my coffee. It's morning. Just recently, I'd say the last year or so, my wife and I have gotten bombed with all kinds of repairs and bills and like that. It's really kind of funny because our house, we had a bunch of stuff. There's a point behind this story, so hang in with me. I'm not just complaining, because I'm not complaining about it at all. We had a lot of repairs on our house to do. We had, I think we had to put a new roof on it because it leaked. We had to replace all the plumbing under the house. Our house is on a raised foundation. This all sort of happened at once, and my wife was joking around saying that our house leaked on both the top and the bottom. And then we had a bunch of other repairs on another property because we have a couple of rental properties. We're very fortunate in that regard. And so we had to replace an air conditioner. We had all this other stuff going on. And then we were trying to put solar on the house because our electric bill is huge because we work from home. But no matter how I tried to do it, I couldn't figure it out. You know, there was no financial way to do it. And then out of the blue, the guy from the solar company, which by the way is Stellar Solar, and I may have told you this before. If I did, forgive me. Anyway, he contacted me out of the blue, and he had an option that we could use. It was a financing option, and actually it worked out really, really well. And so I said, well, let's look at it again, and we did it. We ended up installing the solar on the house, and it produces 110% of the electricity we normally would use because we know we'll be adding things. And this happened and got completed right before the Russians attacked Ukraine, and gas went up additionally over what it had already gone up, and the prices and inflation. We were already in an inflationary period, and gas was already higher than it normally would be. And then suddenly it shot up by like 75 cents, and still going up, it seems. The other day I paid $5.50 a gallon at Costco, and this is the 22nd of March, just to, so that you know, 2022. And what it illustrates there is that we don't know, we have no concept of what's going to happen 2 minutes from now, let alone 10 days from now or a year from now or whatever. And we honestly don't know very much. We think we do, and we tout our scientific knowledge, and we have quite a bit of it, but we still have not explored 90 some odd % of the ocean, and we have no idea what's down there. We still do not understand how gravity works. We still do not understand what generates the magnetic field of the earth. A friend of mine in our Bible group, Kelly, just taught a great lesson on this on Sunday. It was very eye-opening, all the things we don't know, and he's an engineer. And he just listed all this stuff we don't know, we guess about. We have no idea what's in the middle of the earth because we've never drilled down very far. We've never drilled through the crust, actually. So we're just guessing about all that kind of stuff. We take it as science facts, but it's actually science guess. It's theory. We have a lot of theories. Now, you may hear banging in the background, and that's because I'm actually at our other rental property. And the gentleman moved out, and that's kind of the tail end of the story. So stick with me. But the point is that, so as a result, my wife and I had no idea what God was doing as far as giving us all this maintenance we had to do when money was kind of tight and we had all this stuff we had to do all at once. But we kept thinking, God's got a plan here. I don't know what it is. And I have to admit, at times it was frustrating, and I really didn't want to think that way. I just wanted to get frustrated with the fact that, we were burning money like it was going out of style. We didn't have enough to go around, and things were getting tight. And you know what I mean. You've been there where you got more month than money. We've all been there. And yet we get to the end of the day, and electric bills are going up like crazy, but ours is not because we don't have one anymore. And God knew that ahead of time and set us up to get the solar done in our house. Then I took a break. We got done with all of that stuff, and I said to my wife, gee, I'm hoping that Gus, the guy that lived in our house out there in El Centro, that he doesn't move for a while because I really want to get a break from all this stuff. And of course, like the next day or whatever, I hear from Gus that he's moving. And so this is where I am. Let me switch cameras here. I think I figured out how to do this. Hang on a second. And if I did, I can do it here, and then I can pick the camera up. So this is the other camera. I got a little tripod here, and you can see that I'm actually at our house in El Centro. There's the fireplace. I'm trying to do it and not lose you. So hopefully I don't screw this up. Okay, but that's just the living room. And a very nice plumber named Isaac is outside working on some plumbing. We've got plumbing work that needs to be completed. And let me get back to the other camera here. And then we have a bunch of gardening work. There's just a lot of deferred maintenance on this house that we have not in past years been able to do. And so now we're doing it now, which is great. But when Gus let me know he's moving, I thought, gosh darn it. Okay, God, whatever your plan is, I don't know what it is, but I'm hoping it works out for the best. Well, as it turns out, it has. Now, he didn't leave me. Gus was a nice young man. I really liked him, and I do like him personally. I've got nothing against the guy, but he was a young guy. He didn't, by no means did he damage the property. He didn't leave me a dumpster fire or anything like that, so I was really grateful for that. But he didn't exactly leave it clean either. And you know, in the process, he let the backyard, the grass die, and so I got to get that figured out. He left me a lot of work to do, but nothing horrendous. It's not like, sometimes you hear these horror stories where a tenant has destroyed the inside of the house. He most certainly did not do that. As a matter of fact, I actually fixed a couple things around here that needed fixing, and he did it on his own. I'm very grateful for him. So he was a good guy, and I am kind of sorry to see him go because I really did like him a lot. But in any case, he moved. So since he moved, what we've discovered is rents have gone up by about $400 or $500 a month. And I didn't know that. And in California, I think, if I remember right, during COVID, they made a rule, which I don't think they've retracted. Maybe it was right before COVID, but that you can only raise the rent a certain percentage, I think 5% annually. You can't, the only way you can catch up is if the person moves out. And that may not be California-wide. It may only be in certain areas. I don't remember. I'm going to check into it. But I don't believe we could have raised the rent by that amount to get caught up on what the rents could be. But since he moved, I can now rent the property for more. And I'm very grateful for that. And so then my wife is praying for a great tenant because we want to have a tenant like the tenant we had years ago, Sylvia. Sylvia was amazing. She was here for 12 or 13 years. We loved her dearly, and she took great care of the house. And it's a pretty good size. It's not huge. It's like 1,700 square feet or just short of that. And it's 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. And it's in a beautiful neighborhood here in the valley. But it does need quite a bit of maintenance, so that's what we're doing now. Well, anyway, so yesterday after my wife prays about that, and she was telling me she was praying about it, a couple comes by that lives 4 houses down, and a nice gentleman and his wife, and we talked for a little while. And he cracked up because he said, my name's Jose, but they call me Chico or whatever it was. And I said, well, they call me things too, but it's not always stuff that's good. And he thought that was hilarious. But in any case, their son and their son's wife, they've got 3 kids and they're looking for a place to live and they can't afford to buy a house. I said, well, have them come on by. So they did. Really nice young couple, younger than my kids, honestly, but very young couple and very nice couple. And so if they passed the background check, which we'll put them through, and he was very honest with me about everything. But he works for the city. He's a nice guy. His wife seems like very nice. I really loved their parents. And so it may be that God has blessed us with tenants to come in this house at about $400 or more a month. And they were thrilled with the price and everything, works out. So my point is that although I think I'm smart, I really don't know squat, but God does. And so there's a great scripture I wanted to share with you. I may have shared with you before now that I've given you this long-winded story. And it's if you ever want to look it up, it's in Mark chapter 11, and I believe it starts in verse 24. But you can kind of go back to the story of the idea of the fig tree. Jesus and his disciples are walking into Jerusalem, so I'll start there. In the morning, as they went along, they saw the fig tree withered to the roots. Well, that's because earlier, Jesus had gone into town, and he'd seen a fig tree. He was hungry. And he wanted to get something to eat. And so he went up to a fig tree, and you can go back and find where he withered it. And I have to go back here and find it. But he goes earlier in, I think it's in chapter 10, and he goes to get something from the fig tree, and it doesn't have any figs. And he says, may no one ever eat figs from you again. And then, of course, as they're leaving, this is when this happens, as they discover that the tree is withered. So in the following morning, as they went along, they saw the fig tree withered from the roots. Peter remembered and said to Jesus, Rabbi, look, the fig tree you cursed has withered. Now, Jesus could have said, well, of course it withered. I withered it, right? Or he could have said, well, what were you thinking it was going to happen to it after I cursed it? He could have been snide about it, or he could have been prideful about it, and of course he wasn't. He said, have faith in God. That's all he said. Have faith in God, Jesus answered. And then he went on, I tell you the truth, if any one of you says to this mountain, go throw yourself into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will happen to it, it will be done for him. Now, there's an important part of that lesson. Jesus said to the tree, "May no one ever eat figs from you again." And it didn't just wither at that moment. They left. And the next day, they came back, and the tree was withered. So the question is, who withered the tree? Because when he said, "Look, the tree you cursed is withered," Jesus didn't say, "Of course, I withered it." He said, "No, have faith in God." So that's the first question, is who actually withered the tree? Well, it wasn't Jesus, actually. It was the Father, I think, from what I read here. Jesus said, "May no one ever eat from you again." And then the Father withered the tree. "Okay, son, no problem, I got you." That's the end of that. And then he goes on to say, "If I tell you the truth, if anyone says to this mountain, 'Go, throw yourself into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will happen to it, it will be done for him." It will be done for him. It doesn't say it'll be done immediately. He just says it'll be done. So you can say, "Mountain, go throw yourself in the sea," and it may be 1,000,000 years from now, but that mountain, if you don't doubt, is going to go in the sea. But it's going to go in the sea at the time that is the right time and in the right way to fit God's will, not your will. And I think that's one of the greatest lessons right here, is God stands outside of time. We can't figure out what's going to happen tomorrow. He goes on to teach a little bit more for the lesson. He says, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it." Present tense. You have received it right now. "And it will be yours." Future tense. And when you stand praying, he tells you how to pray. Do not pray as the hypocrites do. Just, he gives some explanation on how to do that. But that little bit right there really got me, and about 30 years ago, I think. Because I really meditated on that, thought about it, and I've thought about it a lot. And what it reminded me of is a time when my son was a little boy, and that's been quite some time ago. Okay, and I've thought about this a lot. When he was a little boy, one time he saw, I can't even remember what it was, but he saw something on television, back when people watched television. Now everything's online, right? It's all, online video or streaming stuff. But he saw something on television that was commercial, and he really wanted it, whatever it was. It was some commercial for little kids. It was right before Christmas. And maybe, November or whatever. And he kept asking me for it. Well, I went and got it for him. And I wrapped it, and I put it up in the closet. So the question is, it says, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it." Well, had he received it? Well, technically, yeah, because it was wrapped up with a bow and put aside for him. I went and got it. I took care of it. I wrapped it up in a bow. It was in the house. It was up in there. But had he received it really? Yes. And the answer is no, he hadn't, because it was not the right time. It was not yet Christmas. Jesus said, "Then I tell you the truth, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." When we ask for something from God, he answers that prayer. People say, "Well, God doesn't answer my prayers." Well, yes, he does. God answers prayers in many directions. Sometimes he says yes. Sometimes he says no. Sometimes he says maybe. Sometimes he says, yeah, but not now. Sometimes he might say no, but possibly later, depending on how things work out for you, or depending on what your needs are, And the answers are different. They're not always yes immediately, and as a result, people say he doesn't answer prayers because he doesn't give them the answer that they want. He gives them the answer that they need, and that's often very, very different. So if I ask God for something, then it's going to show up at the proper point in time. Just as what I did with the present. I wrapped up the present, I put it up in the closet with a bow on it for Nick. And Nick had to travel through time, Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday to November to December to the December 23rd, 24th, 25th, and on the morning of December 25th on Christmas. That was the appropriate time. And when he woke up and came out, and there it was, under the tree. Because his father had heard his request and taken care of that for him immediately. He just didn't know it. And then I had given that to him at the proper time and in the proper way. And our Father, God, does exactly the same thing. When we ask for something, we can know with confidence that he's going to give us the answer to that question that we need, not the one that we want, because sometimes the one we want is not very good for us, honestly. He's going to give us the answer that we need, and if it is, maybe it is the answer that we want, it's going to appear at the proper place and time. Because just as we ask, again, he stands outside of time. He cannot be bound by something he created, and he created time. Just as we ask, he's taking care of that. Boom, done. Just like that. But the answer may not appear where we can see it yet. It might be someplace forward in time, and we have to travel because we're linear and we're stuck in the time that we're in. We're stuck in time, okay? And so we have to go through it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is, until we arrive at Thursday, the 1st of June or whatever day it is, in whatever year it is, and we show up and there it is. There's what we asked for right there. Oftentimes, because we get so stuck on the when and the how and the what, and we want it exactly the way we want it, that as we're traveling around getting ready, trying to come to it, guess what happens? We get distracted by our frustration, or we get distracted by our anger, or we're pulled away from God because of our attitude and our disappointment, and we miss it. There it was. He put it there, right there, at the appropriate time in the appropriate place. But because of our attitude, we didn't see it. And we went right by. There was the blessing. We asked for it, and he did it. So I urge you, as you ask God for things, remember that God stands outside of time. He's not necessarily going to answer your question the way you want him to answer it, and he might not answer it when you want him to answer it. He's going to answer it in the way that's best for you, and he knows that, and we don't. We don't. And so that's why, I've kind of grown in that a little bit, and tried to really learn that my goal is to be content in the present, because that's where I always am. I can't exist in the future. I mean, the past, a friend of mine used to say, the past is history, the future is a mystery. And I have to live in the present. And he used to say, the past is history, the future is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And so the focus should be on where are you now, and let God take care of what's coming. And don't worry about what's past. You can't go back and deal with that anyway. This, I think, is why Jesus said, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will take care of itself. Each day has enough troubles of its own. So as I've come out here for the rental property, what's fascinating to me is, yes, there's more bills than I thought there were going to be because there's some deferred maintenance. And yes, it's costing us more money than I'd really like it to. And yes, that makes some financial struggle for us. But I'm eagerly waiting for what God has put ahead of me that I'm going to find along the way. And that nice couple coming in yesterday was so encouraging, because my wife had prayed, and there they were. And sometimes that happens too. It's almost like, oh, wow, cool, God, thank you for answering that prayer right away. And I don't know if they're the right couple for the house, but I do know that the way it worked out was really, really encouraging. So I wanted to encourage you with that. If you're going through tough times right now, you know what? Hang on to God and bring your requests to him, but understand, because of what I shared with you in Mark 11. And again, that's Mark 11, starting in verse 24, I think. Or I think it's in 24, and it goes through like 35 or something. You can look it up in your own quiet time. That whatever you pray for, you have to believe. My daughter, when she was little, would say, okay, Dad, we're going to pray, but you have to believe, because if you don't believe, it's worthless. And Jesus says, whatever you pray for, and do not doubt, but believe in your heart that you have already received it, then it will be yours. Anyway, I hope this helps. Have a wonderful week. Thank you so very much for subscribing to the Spirit's Voice. And don't forget to get in that Bible and have that quiet time. Look up that scripture. It's a really good one. And I'll talk with you again next time.